BYD Atto 3 with us. It's a long-term review. I'm going to try to keep this really short and sweet, right? So less than 12 minutes, this is my goal. Just one take. So it's an electric compact SUV that will consistently deliver 350 to 380 kilometers of range with 90% of its battery capacity. It definitely has some glaring annoyances, but this car is not a utility vehicle, right? It's pretty much a statement. The statement from BYD that they are gunning for the majority of the industry's market share. And I think just last year alone, they have sold 900,000 BEVs. And Tesla did 1.3 million, and Toyota only did 14,000 BEV sales. Right, so let's just jump straight into the five things I like about this vehicle, right? So the soundproofing, the smooth drive, the design audacity, the range, and the snappy infotainment. So these are the five things that I like about the vehicle. I will elaborate more later. Now, five things that I dislike about the vehicle. There's no one-pedal drive. This affects the regenerative braking. The steering assist is non-linear also. I do feel that this vehicle is overpowered. The car is heavy and can be a bit bouncy, right? Last but not least, the one thing that annoyed me the most with this vehicle is the infotainment UX, right? This is something that can be improved on with software updates. So I think for now, we will leave it as that. So let's start with the design of the vehicle, right? I'm not going to talk too much about the exterior because design is quite subjective and you either like or don't like a vehicle, and that's that. So let's just go straight into the interior. Anyway, you will spend most of your time inside the car. So how does it feel, right? The space, the functionality, the comfort, all this is top priority for me. So when it comes to space and functionality, right, the Atto 3 has done a great job with the interior space. The car will sit 5 medium-sized adults without problem. There's ample room to feel spacious and airy whilst also having basic functional storage compartments. Now the side door bins won't work as well, mainly because of the funky bungee cord that the design that the team went with. Center console has a cool gear lever with various buttons that will help with the drive. But having said this, I do think the buttons could be a bit more usable, right? Some of the functions that are there, the buttons, the specific features that they give you, it's not as important. So for example, you don't have a knob to adjust the fan speed, which is something that you're going to use quite often. So the next thing with the interior is the boot space, right? This is one of the feedbacks I had with Karine, who also used this vehicle. It looks like it's extremely wide, but in fact, it may not be as wide as it looks because there are two protruding panels at the back of the boot. So you may not be able to load things horizontally in. So if you have specific things that you want to put into your car, I think you really have to at least bring it or measure your items before going down to the dealership to have a look at the vehicle. So we move on to the drive experience and infotainment. The drive is smooth, right? It beats any regular petrol vehicle or any ICE vehicle. The soundproofing is great, right? Take note, I drove a media car, so as much as I clarified with them whether there's any difference between the media cars and the normal resale cars, they said no, but take it with a grain of salt, right? Wind noise is extremely well insulated and you can easily cruise to highway speeds, or sometimes you will end up speeding without even realizing it, right? That's how quiet this car is. The vehicle is also very comfortable on your daily drives, but it is quite heavy. Right, so this brings me down to the nitty-gritties of the drive experience that I feel that BYD should take this feedback and improve on the vehicle moving forward, right? So the first one is that they do not have a one-pedal drive. Now, I think EVs have the ability to allow people to drive with one pedal, right? So as you release the car, the electric motors slow you down all the way to a standstill, right? But BYD has chosen not to, and this is fine. But the one thing that I do not like about the regen braking is that it is non-linear, right? So what do I mean by non-linear? So imagine you are driving at 100 kilometers per hour. When you release your foot off the accelerator pedal, the regenerative braking kicks in a way where it's not gradual. Okay, it kicks in from light to heavy, and then it goes back down to medium, and then suddenly it's all gone, right? So you have a situation where the car is slowing down in a way where you do not expect the vehicle to slow down in that manner. It is almost as though you drive at the fifth gear and then you suddenly decide to put in an engine brake on the third gear, and then you move back to the fourth gear for whatever reason. I have no idea why this is done this way, right? So I hope there can be a software fix for this, but it got so bad that on the first 2 or 3 days when I was using the vehicle, I actually felt nauseous, right? And combine this together with the fact that the vehicle is heavy, the suspension is great, right? It's comfortable, don't get me wrong. But when you go over bumps and like humps, this car feels like you're on the sea, right? And it's not a choppy sea where the boat is not even moving, right? It's a standstill and you feel that motion constantly going on, and I'm not kidding you that I really felt nauseous for 1 or 2 days with the vehicle. So that's something to take note of, right? And next one is the steering wheel, right? It's a non-linear steering wheel. From a standstill, they give you a lot of assist. That means the steering wheel is extremely light, but once you move on to higher speed, it suddenly kicks in, right? It suddenly reduces the amount of assist, and you get a really heavy steering wheel. So these are all tweaks which I feel that they should do to make the drive more slightly better, right? And the last one is lane keep assist, right? The lane keep assist on this vehicle it barely works, right? I wouldn't recommend that anyone use it because it's quite bad, right? Where you really do not know when the car is going to remove the steering assist. We have some clips of it and I will show it to you. Now we move on to the infotainment, right? I think BYD did a great job with the infotainment, right? It is snappy and it's way ahead of most car manufacturers. In fact, it's better than the Polestar. It's better than a Hyundai Ioniq 5, right? It's even faster than that. The one thing that they need to work on is, number one, the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto is not yet available. It's coming soon, and BYD tells me that it should be available now, right? Just that when I tested the vehicle, it wasn't available. But having said this, the BYD's OS itself, right, there were a lot of UI and UX issues which I feel is a software fix away. So I do not want to make too much of a fuss about it, but small things. It comes right down to the small things, like the voice assistant. It always kicks in the minute you say BYD, right? Even though the activation command is hey BYD or okay BYD or hi BYD, the minute you say BYD, it comes on, right? And you cannot cancel it. You have to let it fail for 2 or 3 times before you can move on, right? And it's going to tell you that, hey, I don't understand, or hey, I'm getting something else. And even when it does work, right, the postal code does not work in Singapore, right? Like you give it the postal code and it is just lost. And you cannot turn this off, right? Which is curious, right? Like why don't you let me turn off voice assistant? So other things are the UX, right? So like if you're using the map, the navigation map, and you're trying to reach, or while you're typing in the items, right? And you decide to cancel maybe you just want to see where you are on the map right now, right? If you tap on the map, it doesn't cancel away the search UI, right? It's stuck there. The only way that you can go back to the home page or the home menu is to reach all the way to the left, right, and touch the back button. And that's one of those things where, yeah, personally, I really have longer arms, right, and I still have to reach out to get the back button. So those are small UX issues which I feel can be worked on. Now moving on to the price of this vehicle. All right, the BYD Atto 3 or most of BYD vehicles are are supposed to be affordable EVs, right? This car is supposed to be built around 28 to $30,000, right? In Singapore, it's 34,000 Singapore dollars, right? The OMV of this vehicle, that's the cost of this vehicle, right? It's $34,000 at the price of which the manufacturer sort of intends for it to be sold for, right? But it's $180,000 in Singapore, right? 180 grand for a BYD, right? I get it, like that the dealerships have to earn money, right? And they can, right? There are really no EVs in the market right now, and in this price range, right, in the price range of anything less than $200,000 in Singapore, this is probably the best EV that you can buy, right? So they can charge you these prices, right? So it is a catch-22 for me, right? Would I buy this vehicle if it's a sub 200k vehicle and I'm really looking for an EV? I have no choice. Then yeah, I'm probably gonna buy a BYD, right? Maybe it doesn't need to be an Atto 3. It can be any other model. But take note, right? The depreciation on this vehicle is $18,000 a year. Now that is close to Tesla territory, right? Tesla is $19,000, right? So just something to take note when you're buying this vehicle, right? I really hope that the BYD team in Singapore can be a bit more aggressive with the price. So in summary, what do I think of this vehicle? I think Toyota is in trouble, right? BYD has improved their EV by leaps and bounds since the first E6, and I really applaud the effort and audacity to design a vehicle like this. Despite all its nuances, right, I really enjoyed the drive, and I wish the only thing that I really wish here is the pricing, right? The pricing in Singapore. It is going to be a bit difficult to recommend this vehicle, right? But if you're really looking for an EV that is sub $200,000, then this is the vehicle to have, right? But if you're overseas and you're looking for an affordable EV, this is the car to go, right? I love the fact that the range, right? The range this vehicle gives you, with 90% of its battery capacity, 350 to 380 kilometers is fantastic, right? That's a week's worth of driving, at least in Singapore, right? You don't have to charge every day. You can charge it once a week and you're good to go. So with that, I hope you find the review helpful. I'm trying to keep this short and sweet. So I really hope Toyota will come up with something, but looking at it, I think BYD is going to take on the throne for affordable EVs in the future. So with that, do like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope you found it useful. We'll see you in the next one. I've spent about a week plus in the BYD Atto 3, and I wanted to make this a quick review, right? So I'm just going to...
Say that again?
Cancel BYD, stop it. You see, that's the issue with this car, right?
Unfortunately, I can't help you with that yet.
So